We're going to demonstrate how to perform a quality control for the CardioCheck Plus machine. First thing we want to do is make sure we have all our supplies. We have the lipid panel test, the e-glucose test, the control solution to two level 1 and a level 2, thermostat, the CardioCheck Plus machine, the cover to check the optics check, your lancets, and the capillary tubes. Easiest thing to do is to log it on the piece of paper here. We've already filled out some of it, but we'll go through what each individual field looks like. You want to complete your date, your room temperature, which is found on the thermometer over here. Also the room humidity. As far as the capillary tubes, you want to make sure that you check them. The important thing here is that we're making sure they're not expired. So look at the date on it, go ahead and log in the capillary tube lot number and the expiration date. Same thing with the lancets. You want to make sure that you log the lot number and the expiration date for the lancets. Make sure that you're logging when the lancets were opened, if they're not when they were opened. That's very important for an important open box. As far as the optics check, you want to make sure you go ahead and put the serial number for the machine. The serial number is found right over here. Go ahead and document that, and then we can get started with the testing. You'll see the CardioCheck machine over here. Now what we're going to do is run an optics check on it. So you want to turn the machine on, pressing the circle. Scroll over until you're in utilities.
Zoom in for utility.
Once you're at utilities, you want to go to check strip. Hit the button. It's going to say to insert strip. We're going to go ahead and insert our strip and wait a few seconds. At which point it should say completed. If it says fail, what you want to do is remove the strip, clean this inner and outer portion with alcohol, and that should help it pass. If it does not pass at that point, then there's probably something wrong with the machine. Once you've noted that it's passed, you want to go ahead and document on the sheet that it has passed. Put your initials on there. And then the next thing we're going to do is run the controls for the glucose and the lipid panel. So we have our test. If you order them together, they will have the same lot number. So we recommend ordering the glucose testing and the lipid testing at the same time, so they'll come in a pair. When you open it up, each one is going to have a separate memo chip, but the number on the memo chip should be exactly the same. So there should be no issue with it. But always I encourage you to double check to make sure they are the same. So we're going to go ahead and open up both of them. And as you can see, they both have the same lot numbers. So therefore we can run the test correctly. We're going to power off the machine by holding both buttons. Then we're going to power it back on. It's going to say insert memo chip. We're just going to ignore that for now. We're going to go back into the same menu that we did, the utilities menu. Instead of check strip, what we're going to see is that it's going to say run control. That's where we need to be. Once we hit the run control, it's going to ask us to install the chip. Go ahead and put the chip in. Like I said, any chip is fine as long as the lot numbers are fine. We're going to hit the circle again. Run control. Q802. We're going to verify that. That is correct, Q802. And it's going to ask to insert 2 strips. So let's start with the glucose strip. We're going to remove the glucose strip. Make sure we seal the cap. If we don't, it can dry out the strip. And go ahead and put it in. We're going to take our control solution out. We're going to start the one that says level 1. That's the one with the white cap. We're going to apply the sample onto the strip and let it do the testing. You may need to move the sample a little bit to make sure it vacuums into the bottom part. At this point, it will give you the check and that you know that the glucose reading is done. The next one we have to do is a cholesterol test. So we're going to go ahead and take the strip from the lipid panel. I'm going to go ahead and insert that, and we're going to run the level 1 test on it. Going to go ahead and apply drop by drop until the machine says otherwise. 1 drop, 2 drops, 3 drops. It's going to give you an audible beep, at which point it's about 3 drops, and it's going to run. Now this run does take a little bit, so know that the machine is working and just let it run. As far as the control solutions, you have your level 1 and your level 2. Just go ahead and denote that here. You have your level 1 MC28A is the one we're using, so go ahead and denote that there. And you put the lot number and the expiration date and the date the vial was open. And the same process with the level 2. You want to do the same thing. Just go ahead and denote that. Remember that after you open a product, it's good for 10 months. It's going to have that same lot number right over here. Now, as you can see, this expires on 4/30 of 2019. But since we opened it on January 12th of 2018, it's only good for 10 months after that point. So in November 12th of 2018, we're going to have to discard these. After you run your checks, this screen shall pop up and it'll give you all the values that you need right over here at this screen. So all we have to do is put these in for the level 1 test. So as you can see, the cholesterol is 147, the HDL 28, triglycerides 170, and the glucose is 56. Make sure that on the bottom you log this serial number for the machine. We're going to repeat this process on the level 2. The only difference being that the control solution that we're going to be using is a level 2. So you're going to run the same exact test using the level 2. We don't need to demonstrate that, but the exact same methodology applies for it, and you're going to go ahead and log it right over here in this part in the level 2. The normal values are right over here. It tells you. Right now the form does need to be updated, but it does not show the MC28, but you'll have an idea of where it needs to be. There's just a slight variance in the total cholesterol readings, but you'll see that the level 2s are much higher than the level 1s. In general, this is a pretty good range. The 115 to 225, you should be in that range. So as you can see, our number came to 147, which should be fine. All the other values, I believe, are exactly the same. It's just that the different lot numbers have a slight variation in the total cholesterol.
All right, everybody, welcome to the second part of our series. On this video, we're going to show you how to properly collect someone's sample in order to, blood sample in order to get their lipid panel. A couple things you want to remember. One, make sure that the patient is fasting, meaning they haven't eaten anything since the night before. And the other thing is make sure you have the right supplies. So we'll be using the same machine, just like we did for the e-glucose. A couple things you want to watch out for. When you order the panels, it'll come in a box that looks like this, and it has two things in it. It's got the kind of the black plastic for the lipid panels, and then basically the glucose strips here for the e-glucose. You do them at the same time. You're going to do them at the same time, and the one thing is you want to make sure you use the two that are in here because they will both have the same lot numbers. So each one of these has a black memory chip. Either chip is going to be fine for the testing. So just make sure, as long as the lot numbers are the same. So one of the first things you're going to want to do is turn on the machine. And it's going to ask you to install the memo chip. So we'll install the memo chip. We'll verify it is indeed, and it's going to immediately ask for the two strips. Now, it's okay to go ahead and put the strips in first because it will hold this for a good bit of time. So a couple things I've noticed whenever we do this is make sure that the letters are down, PTS, and they'll slide in. All right, now it's going to ask for a sample. The screen's going to look like this. It's going to ask for a sample. So we have our patient here. So now we can go ahead and get started. So the patient picked their hand. Now you always want to make sure you ask which finger. Usually your third or middle or ring finger are your two best ones because those are usually the ones that are least calloused. I usually prefer the middle finger here. A couple of things I want you to note is that this is the capillary tube that we'll be using. You have to get the blood all the way up here, remembering that you have to wipe away the first drop of blood. So it's a lot of blood. So it's going to be one of your biggest challenges when it comes to this is getting enough blood for this sample. So we're going to show you a couple of techniques that'll help. One of the things is while you're getting everything prepared, have the patient's arm dangling to the side. A couple of people also can get some of the hot hands or a warmer in order to help get a little circulation to the end of the fingers. And we'll show you a couple of techniques when it comes to how you hold the hand in an effort to get the max amount of blood so we can get the right amount of sample. All right, so we're going to use Miss Christie here at store 180. We're going to use her finger. All right, so one of the first things you want to do, especially early on, is make a tabletop with your hand. So thumbs up, like so. Have the patient put their finger, make a table, and press down. As you can see right there, it gets very red very fast. Another thing that you can do, and this is going to be a little more difficult because my hands are a lot bigger than Christie's here, is you can kind of squeeze right here and then press with your thumb on the inside. As you can see right here, it really makes the end of the finger very red and pushes the blood here without actually without having to squeeze too much on the fingers. We're going to do that method here in a second. I just wanted to show you before we get started. All right, so we sanitize the finger. Remember, give it about 10 seconds before you press on the finger. All the while, you can get your Band-Aid ready. All right, so go ahead and make a tabletop. Right here, make a tabletop, press down, and I'm going to go ahead and use this method right here because, like I said, it's going to be a lot of blood. So you're going to take it, and you can actually have the patient kind of lay their hand over the table. It's a little bit easier for everybody. I'm going to twist this. Remember not to pull it directly out, but to twist it off. That's to not dull the needle. Okay. And you're going to go just the opposite side of center, just over the center of the finger. All right. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to get a drop of blood. For this one, we're going to wipe away the first drop. and then we can get things going here. First thing you want to do is press right here, and we can get the glucose going. Now, when it comes to the capillary tubes, let's make sure that we hold this thing. You need to drop about the size of a ladybug. And one of the things you want to do to make sure we're doing is we want to make sure that we try to hold that tube as up to the hole as long as we can. Use the capillary action to keep sucking up the blood. Just hold it up as long as you can. Trying to get to the black line. Oops. I don't see it coming back up, do you? All right. At that point, you give it to the patient. Let them hold their finger. And we're going to apply the sample. All right, so as you can tell on this, I didn't quite get enough to go all the way to the black line, but I thought it looked like enough to probably get the test going. You want to try to get as much as you can, but great job right there in order to get it. So you saw the method where I pressed on it. Just make sure that you keep the pressure applied. Use the capillary action of the actual tube to pull the blood up, and it takes a few seconds, but it's testing now. And it takes about 90 seconds. Make sure we put our sharps away. At this point, you got a few seconds. Want to talk to your patient maybe about immunizations, maybe about the app, right? You got a couple of minutes. So you just want to talk to them and ask how things are going and, I don't know, make some small talk. So once you feel like that the pressure's been applied, we can go ahead and put the Band-Aid on them. And in the meantime, you can go ahead and get everything cleaned up. Remember, only the lancets need to go into the actual sharps container. Everything else can go into your gloves. All right, and that concludes